Hey everybody, Matt Bove here, getting ready for my trip to Indianapolis for the NFL Combine. And the Combine is a big one because there's a couple different reasons. First off, we're going to hear from Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane for the first time since their season-ending press conferences, so that was more than a month ago. But the real reason it's a big deal because this is kind of the first event of the start of the off-season craziness. So we've got the NFL Combine this week, and then in a couple weeks, about 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, 2 weeks from after the Combine, NFL free agency begins. The way it works is on March 11th. That's when you can legally tamper with players. So basically, teams can start reaching out to free agents and say, hey, would you be interested in coming here? And you're going to see a lot of deals made basically on that day and on the next day. And then the following day, that's March 13th, that's when free agency actually begins. Teams need to be cap compliant by that date. I believe free agency begins at 4 o'clock. So the Combine kind of starts the craziness that is the next 2 months. So you've got the Combine, then you've got the tag deadline for franchise tags. The Bills probably aren't going to franchise tag anybody. Then after that, it's free agency. Then after that, it's the draft. And then obviously after that, it's the schedule release. And then before you know it, we're already talking about the Bills being back out in the field. So the Combine is the first big one. But before we got to Indianapolis, I wanted to highlight 5 positions that I know the Bills are going to be targeting this offseason. There is no position more important for the Buffalo Bills this offseason than wide receiver. I don't even think there is another one that's close. I want the Bills to go sign a wide receiver. I want them to draft a wide receiver. And then when they think they have enough wide receivers, I want them to go add another wide receiver. This has been a position that has really kind of been avoided by the Bills for the last several years. I looked it up a few weeks ago. Brandon Beane has only drafted 7 wide receivers in his time as the general manager of the Bills. So from 2018 until now, they've only drafted 7 wide receivers, and this is the one that's wild. They have never drafted a wide receiver on day 1 or on day 2 of the NFL draft. The highest they have selected a wide receiver was Gabe Davis back in 2020. Now, you're going to say, well, Matt, they did trade a first-round pick for Stephon Diggs. I know, that one worked out. But now, besides Stephon Diggs and Khalil Shakir, this team is lacking talent at wide receiver. That was obvious with Gabe Davis' injury in the playoffs last year. They were throwing at Trent Sherfield in the playoff game. He was not making the big catches they needed. Moving forward, I think Stephon Diggs is back. I really like Khalil Shakir, but I really like Khalil Shakir as kind of your slot guy, your number 3 or number 4. Not as a number 2, not as somebody who needs to be counted on every single game. Go draft one, go sign another one. It's the most important position this offseason. Now, this one is not as fun, but it's defensive tackle. The Bills need defensive tackles because they just need bodies on their defensive line. Right now, they've got Ed Oliver, and then that's pretty much it. There's nobody else notable who you would say, okay, we know we can count on that guy. Daquan Jones is the name to circle here because he's a Bills player who has had some really, really good seasons with this team. And up until his injury earlier in the year, I thought he could arguably have been the most impressive player on the defensive side of the ball. Then he gets hurt in London. He doesn't come back until the very end of the season. Now, that really hurt them in the season, but it also probably kept Daquan Jones a little bit more affordable than we thought he was going to be. Of all of the players that are set to hit free agency, I think Daquan Jones might have the highest priority for the Bills to keep him because of, 1, the player and the talent, and 2, the position that he plays. But even besides him, you know that they're going to need to make decisions with guys like Tim Settle, with Jordan Phillips. They don't have a lot at defensive tackle right now. I think they keep Daquan Jones. That's another position I'm sure they'll address this offseason. Safety. Bills have not had to worry about safeties, really, for the last 7 years, whatever it has been since Sean McDermott has taken over here. Sean McDermott's core guys, from when he started here up until now, you've got guys like Deion Dawkins and Tre'Davious White. They draft Josh Allen the next year. But Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde, both of those guys signed as free agents in 2017 for Sean McDermott's first year and quickly became one of the best safety duos, if not the best safety duo in the entire NFL. Here's where it gets tricky. Micah Hyde has been dealing with neck injuries, and he's on an expiring contract. He's a free agent. He told us after the season he's got a lot to think about. Then his wife posts this big, long message about how much they appreciate Buffalo on social media. Reading between the tea leaves here, it almost feels like Micah Hyde could announce that he's retiring. To me, it feels like either he retires or he comes back and plays another season with the Bills. I don't see a scenario where he goes and takes a bunch of money to go play elsewhere. So Micah Hyde, there's a lot of questions about. And then Jordan Poyer saw his role kind of decrease this past season, and it makes you wonder, would they rip the Band-Aid off and get rid of both of them and start completely over? Or would they keep Jordan Poyer and then try and add somebody next to him, get that person a little bit more up to speed, and then have to address Jordan Poyer's vacancy because he's got 1 year left on his contract? Whatever happens, they need safeties. Taylor Rapp's got a deal that's coming up. It's an expiring contract. He only signed a 1 year deal. Damar Hamlin did not do much last season. They need safeties, and that's another position on the defensive side of the ball that I think they focus on. Will the real Von Miller please stand up? This is the question with the Bills' defensive end room moving into this upcoming season with their pass rushers. Greg Rousseau is a stud. I really like him. I'm anticipating that he gets the fifth-year option picked up. So you got 2 more years of Greg Rousseau. But what after that? Are you going to keep A.J. Epinesa? Probably going to get paid by somebody. You're going to keep Leonard Floyd? All respect in the world to him for just being completely straight up with us after the season. He's like, I'm going to follow the money, guys. So if he follows the money's probably not coming from the Bills. And then that brings us to Von Miller. Is Von Miller going to be closer to the guy we saw in 2022 or in 2023? If he's closer to the guy we saw in 2022, then of course that would be a huge addition for the Bills. His contract does not seem like there's a lot of manipulation here. Like, I think Von Miller is going to be back on the Bills next season because of the contract. So if you're going to keep him, you need production from him. He'll probably be somewhere in the middle. Here's the one piece of positivity, though. It can't be worse. He almost did nothing on the field last season. So I'm anticipating that if he does stay, which I think he will be better, but I don't know what better really means. Better just means that he can't be as bad as he was in 2022, but I'm also not anticipating that he, looks like he did back in 2020. Better, I said that wrong. Better means that he will be better than he was in 2023, but I'm not anticipating he looks like he did in 2022. I'm sorry, all these years are mixed and meshing all together. And then the last one is running back. And there's going to be people here who watch this and they're going to groan and they're going to go, oh my gosh, running back? We're talking about running backs again? James Cook was just a Pro Bowler. We're only talking about it because there's not a lot of other positions that I think they need to do something at. And I fully anticipate James Cook will be the guy moving forward. But he's not going to just be the only guy. We watched Latavius Murray get carries in a playoff game. They liked Latavius Murray for pass protection. He was the oldest running back in the NFL. Let's assume he's not back. Nyheim Hines, they got to figure something out with. Are they going to restructure his deal? Are they going to let him walk? I don't know there. We'll see how that one plays out. Ty Johnson, I really liked. I thought that he served his purpose, and he was a really nice addition for the team. I think he can be retained for a nice, cheap contract. I don't think Damian Harris is back because of the injury. Maybe they get him on like a league minimum deal and they just say, hey, let's see what you got. The names that I really liked when I was kind of looking at the different landscape for the running backs were Antonio Gibson from the Commanders. And then the one that I'm really surprised with, I really think Ezekiel Elliott makes sense for the Buffalo Bills. And when you hear his name, I think you immediately go, why would the Bills spend big time money on a running back out of his prime? He's not going to cost you big time money. I think Ezekiel Elliott could be had for $2-3 million a year. And when you think of how he could pair with James Cook, I really like the combination there. Ezekiel Elliott's a good pass protector. He's obviously a specialist in short yardage situations. I think it's kind of what they were hoping they would get from Damian Harris last season until he got hurt. So I like the idea of Zeke Elliott for the Bills, and I think it makes a lot of sense.